Angela Davis. It is time for the Slay Word of the Week. This week, the word is macabre. Absolutely, folks. You know, you're going to level up that vocab. You know the routine. Slay it at home, on the job, with the kids, and of course in the side hustle, which increasingly is becoming very significant in terms of survival. That word macabre, M-A-C-A-B-R-E, macabre. All right, it is an adjective, so it modifies or describes a noun. It does come from the late 19th century, from the French, okay, with reference to a miracle play. That play was called Maccabée à Maccabee. All right, that was a play depicting the slaughter of the Maccabees. Okay, the first known usage of the word macabre was in 1889. What does it mean? It means dwelling on the gruesome, tending to produce horror in the beholder. Let's use it in a sentence. She was a mystery writer who wrote macabre stories of murder and badness, and her stories, they were bestsellers. Or how about this? There was a shooting on Elm Street, and when police got to the scene of the crime, they found a macabre scene that included 2 dead bodies. Yikes. All right, let's transition over and let's use it in current events. Boy, is it ever relevant. How about this? I'm going to use it this way. The scene after the recent hurricane left a macabre scene with some residents reporting finding dead bodies in their backyard. Yikes. Or how about this? That latest vote of 51 to 49 not to allow witnesses and documents at the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Well, for many people who love their country and love the Constitution, that was a macabre outcome of the impeachment hearing. Very sad. How about this? The site of self-proclaimed white supremacists recently trolling the Capitol building in Richmond, Virginia, was a macabre site for people of color who no longer feel safe in our own country. Macabre, people, it means gruesome or tending to produce horror in the beholder. Macabre. It comes from the French and it means, again, gruesome. I'll use it every day this week in my news. Stay with me. Thanks for watching. I am Carol Angela Davis, and of course I've got your news of the day. Now, in the news on the environment from Pennsylvania, folks, that's the place where clay-colored water, is running through family pipes after a drilling mud spill. Yes, folks, you heard me right. The pipeline company says, not my fault, sorry. That's the word from the Tar family. They live there in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania. It's reported in the Guardian newspaper. The Tar is saying their water smelled strongly of nail polish and that it burned Mrs. Tar's mouth when she brushed her teeth. Ugh. Lab results detected toluene and MTBE. Those are volatile organic compounds found in fuel, people. Just what you want to be drinking every morning when it's time to get up and start your day. That brings me to our slay word, macabre, for tending to produce horror in someone. Folks, if you don't have a reaction to that, if you don't feel macabre about that, there's something wrong with you. But then you will feel that way when it's your turn to be drinking that dirty water. And the way they let these billionaires run wild, that won't take long. Well, the water turned dirty after a drilling mud spill at a nearby construction site for the Mariner East 2. That's the ME2 pipeline. The Mariner East 2 project does stretch 350 miles, folks, through 17 mostly densely populated counties. Your turn is coming, people. It's a multi-billion-dollar project for transporting volatile natural gas liquids. They're coming from the shale fields of Ohio, eastern Ohio, and western Pennsylvania and going to an export facility in Delaware County. From there, the liquids are shipped to Europe to manufacture, folks, plastics. Yes, sir. We need a lot more plastic now, don't we? The company says the water issue is simply not their fault, folks, but you should know that the ME2 horizontal directional drilling, that's called HDD. That project is subject to multiple criminal and regulatory investigations. Okay, those include FBI and state investigations for corruption, bribery, and other criminal misconduct. The company has reportedly contaminated surface and groundwater sources in hundreds of mud spills, people, created sinkholes in parks, roads, and backyards, and all that since construction began back in early 2017. HDD drilling is particularly susceptible to spills, which are known as inadvertent returns. That's when lubricating mud erupts through weak spots in the rock. And that, folks, is your government at work. Folks, you better vote. Now, stop getting played out here. Get to the polls. Vote en masse. We know what's going on. You got to make it happen. This is Black Girls News. Get it together. Get it done. Get to the polls and vote. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day. I am Carol Angela Davis. I've got your news today. Okay, folks, the Trump administration, as you know, has issued an order to stop offering a path to residency to nationals from Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Nigeria, Sudan, Myanmar, and Tanzania. That's right, folks. Trump arguing that immigrants, folks, should only be allowed into the United States on the basis of merit, folks, and not through any lottery system, or certainly not through any chain migration system, which, of course, is how Melania's parents got their citizenship a couple years ago. But we're borrowing the Nigerians. Let's talk a little bit about the Nigerian. Who is this Nigerian that has no merit? Let's talk about them. Well, first of all, you should know Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa with 190.8 million people as of 2018. You should also know it is the African country of origin with the most migrants here in the United States. There's a method to that madness, okay? The 2016 American Community Survey, well, it estimates that 380,785 U.S. residents report Nigerian ancestry. But get this, and this is where it gets deep. Please stay with me. According to the United States Census Bureau, 4% of Nigerians hold a PhD. That, folks, is compared to 1% of the general U.S. population. They're way ahead. Also, 17% of Nigerians hold a master's degree and 37% have bachelor's degrees. These are people who are supposedly have no merit. According to data provided by Rice University in Texas, Nigerian Americans, folks, they are the most educated ethnic group in the United States. Sounds like merit to me. According to the Migrations Policy Institute, 29% of Nigerian Americans have graduate degrees. That is compared to 11% for the overall American population. Ahead. And a minimum of 4% of Nigerian Americans are also PhD holders. Folks, that is at least 3 times higher than any other ethnic group in the United States of America. More than 70% of black doctors in the United States are now Nigerian descent. That brings me to our slay word, macabre, for tending to produce horror in a beholder, folks. If you don't get a sense of macabre from hearing how we are barring Nigerians, obviously, clearly because they are superior performers, then there's something wrong with you. You need to get out there and doggone it, you better vote. Vote en masse. People, stop getting played. Vote. I'm Carol Angela Davis. We thank our Nigerian brothers and sisters for bringing all that talent right here to the United States of America. We need you. We love you. We're glad you're here. I am Carol Angela Davis. Okay, folks, I keep telling you, stop spending and pay down, really pay off your debt. If there's any way possible, pay off your debt. The U.S. economy, it grew at 2.1% for the fourth quarter of 2019. Folks, that gross domestic product decelerated. Yes, decelerated to its slowest pace in 3 years. So we should tell you for the full year, the economy, it only grew at 2.3%. That is below the 2.9% increase from 2018 and the 2.4% from 2017. And that is the word from the U.S. Commerce Department. Folks, those are the numbers. The data is well below the White House's projections following the 2017 tax bill. You know, the one that cut domestic and individual and corporate taxes, and of course gave all the tax cuts to the rich. You'll remember the White House said that the stimulus would lead to gross domestic product increases of at least 3%. That has not happened yet, folks. That brings me to our slay word, macabre, for tending to produce horror in someone. Folks, it's not macabre yet, not yet. But let me tell you something. If it gets there, you need to make sure that your spending is under control so you don't get caught up, because you know when the hammer comes down, they're going to cut our throats and leave us to bleed in the streets while all the billionaires run off to their private islands and sip mint juleps. You know that. The consumer spending, okay, the consumer, you account for 68% of what is now a $21.7 trillion U.S. economy, and your spending is helping propel the economy, but should it? Should it? Real disposable income was up 1.5% in the fourth quarter. That is a decline from the 2.9% rise in the previous period. The full year gain, it came in at 3%. That is well below the 4% increase in 2018. So it is on the downswing. Again, your job is to stop spending and pay off your debt so you don't get caught up going down with it. Now, when it comes to private investment, that too is down. Gross private domestic investment fell 6.1% in the quarter, the third straight decline, and it is significantly worse than the 1% drop the previous period. Don't get caught up. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching. I am Carol Angela Davis. Today's Crime Day, folks. A Detroit man, he's recovering after a woman he was kissing bit off his tongue. Police say 52-year-old Eulette Wedgeworth and the man were having a consensual kiss, but she apparently asked him not to put his tongue in her mouth, and he did it anyway, at which point she bit it off. Yeah. When police got to the scene, they say they found him bleeding from his mouth and about 1 inch of his tongue was missing. Yikes. Police were able to recover the man's tongue from his apartment bedroom. They took him to the hospital and they arrested Wedgeworth. She is now charged with aggravated assault and faces a possible year in jail. That brings me to our slay word, macabre, for something that tends to produce horror in someone. And if a story to me about a woman biting off of a man's tongue, if that isn't macabre to you, then I don't know what is. Okay, let's go to the next story. We're going to take us all the way to Pennsylvania. How mean? How mean? Last week, a judge sentenced 36-year-old Ashley Mincer to at least 10 months in prison, and that's because she stole $109.63 worth of groceries. Now, apparently, it's so sick. Miss Mincer has advanced uterine cancer as well as cervical cancer, and she needs surgery to remove her uterus and the tissue around it. The crazy judge sentenced her on the same day that she was scheduled to meet with her oncologist to discuss a last-ditch effort to try and save her life, okay? The doctor had already told her that if she does not get the procedure done, she will die. So let's be clear, Judge. You didn't sentence her to jail. You sentenced her to death. Let's be clear, because anybody with advanced cancer who can't get their chemo is on their way out of here. It wasn't worth it. Miss Mincer had been on powerful psychiatric medication to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, partly brought on by the death of her child. This girl can't get a break. Even Pennsylvania's Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman thought it was insane. Okay, thought the judge treated her meanly. He went over to the store to hand deliver a check and pay off the money. Why is that judge on the bench? We don't need anybody on the bench who's that mean. I'm Carol Angela Davis. I am Carol Angela Davis. Folks, Apple pledging $2.5 billion to help out in California's housing crisis. The governor saying, quote, the sky-high cost of housing, both for homeowners and renters, is the defining quality of life concern for millions of families across the state, unquote. California needs more than 3 million homes by 2025. Apple's plan does include $1 billion to create a mortgage assistance fund for first-time home buyers, and then another $1 billion that'll be an open line of credit to support building very low to moderate income housing. Meanwhile, the U.S. Census Bureau, well, it says the gap between the richest and the poorest U.S. households is now the largest it's been in 50 years. And this is despite the fact that median U.S. income hit a new record in 2018. That brings me to our slay word mercurial for unpredictable and erratic. Don't spend your money in a mercurial way, folks. All the signs are there telling you to save. Okay, do not get this twisted. In fact, I'll tell you more. In the Fed's latest American Community Survey report, the Fed say U.S. income equality, it was significantly higher in 2018 than it was in 2017. And while many states did not see a change in income equality last year, there were 9 states that did. They are Alabama and Arkansas, also California, Kansas, Nebraska, plus New Hampshire, New Mexico, Virginia, and Texas. All right, news not good there. The disparity grew despite a surging national economy that has seen low unemployment and more than 10 years of consecutive GDP growth. In California, some 45% of California residents are renting their homes, and let me tell you, folks, the average hourly wage among renters is $22.79, but guess what? In order to afford yourself a fair market rent for a 2-bedroom home there in California, you got to earn $34.69 an hour, so you're in trouble right there. And we should also tell you that Apple's not alone in pledging help. Both Facebook and Google pledged $1 billion in recent months. Also, Microsoft pledged $500 million to ease housing problems in Seattle. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching. Get me on Instagram and Twitter. Hey, I'm Carol Angela Davis. I've got your cannabis news from Berkeley, California, folks. We should tell you that the city council there has voted to change the municipal code so that it will support cannabis consumption and cannabis delivery services. Now, it happened by a unanimous vote. The Berkeley City Council there allowing for cannabis consumption lounges and marijuana delivery services to now operate in the city. And what that means is that now licensed cannabis retailers, they're going to be able to allow on-site consumption of marijuana products if the required ventilation system is installed. It also means that up to 7 cannabis delivery services are now going to be able to operate there in Berkeley, California. And also the new change is going to increase the areas of the city where commercial marijuana cultivation is permitted. Now, we should also tell you that before these rules were changed, the use of cannabis was prohibited in most public places, also most businesses, and of course by many landlords. But with the change, the many consumers who were left under the old rules, they had medical marijuana, but they didn't even have any place to use it legally. So now they do. So when it comes to dispensaries, they're going to have more space there to operate and be able to open a smoking lounge there for patrons. So if they have to, they can consume their medical marijuana right there. Now, the Berkeley Community Health Commission, though, it is expressing concerns about the new changes because they are worried about exposure to secondhand marijuana smoke, folks, and also secondhand marijuana vapor for that matter, and the potential risk of drivers who might get behind the wheel while they are high. Of course, those are all very valid concerns. The commission also saying that it believes that allowing consumption lounges is inconsistent with city initiatives to provide smoke-free environments and also to curb social acceptance of smoking. So good points on both sides. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching. I am Carol Angela Davis with your cannabis news from Missouri. In November, folks, voters there may get a chance to vote on recreational marijuana. In 2018, 66% of the voters there in Missouri did vote in medicinal marijuana. The initiative to get this recreational done does mean the state constitution has to be changed, and that takes 160,000 signatures, and they have to be in by the middle of May in order to qualify for that November election. Now, the group fighting to get adult usage on the ballot, it says this, quote, "The status quo has allowed an unsafe and unregulated black market to flourish in Missouri while wasting law enforcement resources that would be better spent fighting serious and violent crime," unquote. You should also know that New Jersey, South Dakota, and Mississippi, all of those states have already approved cannabis ballot measures that are going to go to the voters this year. Now, 3 different constitutional amendments for Missouri have been submitted. They allow individuals 21 years and older to grow up to 3 cannabis plants and possess up to 1 ounce of flower on their person. People with past cannabis-related offenses, they're going to have to apply to the court system to have their sentences reduced or their convictions expunged. So they have to apply. All cannabis products are going to have to be produced within state lines pending federal legalization. People who have a felony conviction, well, they're going to face some restrictions on owning a cannabis business, but there's going to be some exceptions for those whose offenses are more than 5 years old and nonviolent or cannabis related. A fiscal analysis of the proposal, you should know, does estimate a statewide recreational cannabis industry could earn the government, are you ready for this, between 86 million and 155 million by 2025. Okay, plus 17 million to 27 million for local governments. Wow. It'll probably pass. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching. I am Carol Angela Davis. Virginia is one step closer to passage of Senate Bill 2. It clears some past cannabis-related offenses from individuals' records, and it does reduce sentencing possession offenses. Now, the bill has passed the State Senate Judiciary Committee by an 11-2 vote. Now it's heading over to the Finance Committee. The bill drops the penalty for small-scale possession to $50. Folks, it is a big deal because right now, if you're found with even a tiny amount of marijuana, you can be sentenced to up to 30 days in jail and also have to pay a $500 fine. Now, the bill also raises the amount of cannabis that qualifies for an intent to distribute charge from half an ounce to an ounce. And under the new bill, cannabis possession remains a civil offense for those under 18. Now, the ACLU of Virginia says it doesn't go far enough. It wants public comment on the bill so that they can make sure it is the most equitable bill possible. You should know that both the state's governor and attorney general, they do support legalization. Now, in Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam has put cannabis regulation squarely on his criminal justice reform agenda. You'll remember he talked about that right after he was elected. He is committed to decriminalizing marijuana and expunging possession convictions. And we should tell you, the state of Virginia, their current laws are extremely harsh, folks, okay? Extremely harsh. Your first offense, as we said, with a tiny amount of marijuana can land you in jail for up to 30 days and you get a $500 fine. But get this, any subsequent possession offense raises the penalty to a year behind bars, please, and a $2,500 fine. And you know who's getting that. And that's for less than half an ounce of cannabis. Come on, folks. Anything above half an ounce, well, that counts as sale, manufacture, or trafficking people. Yes, you heard me correctly. That's a felony charge carrying a 1 to 10 year prison sentence. So this new bill is welcome relief there in Virginia. The question is, does it go far enough? I'm Carol Angela Davis. Thanks for watching. I'm Carol Angela Davis. I've got your cannabis news. Southern University, folks, That is the country's first historically black college and university to become involved in the CBD industry. Southern now having an anti-inflammatory product line called Alafia. Alafia is Yoruba for inner peace. You'll find the product from Alera Holistic Healthcare at New Orleans H&W Drugstore Dispensary. Now, the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, that's the division of Southern University that is heading up the effort. You should know that Southern is one of only 2 permit holders in Louisiana's medical marijuana system, the other one being Louisiana State University. Alafia products are expected to hit the shelves by the end of February. They'll come in 2 formulations. 500 milligrams, that'll be your $40 formulation, and 1,000 milligrams, that'll be your $80 formulation. More products are in development. So good news there for Southern University. And it really is good news, folks, because we all know that African Americans were particularly hard hit by the failed war on drugs. A 2016 report did show that black people were 2.6 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession in the state of Louisiana. And guess what, folks? If you are in Baton Rouge, it was even worse. Then you were 6 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession in the state of Louisiana. It's a disgrace. Let's hope Louisiana is also correcting that in terms of the expungements and making sure people are not having their lives completely ruined by marijuana possession while the other folks are out there making all those billions. Now, we should tell you Southern University and Louisiana State University, they're not the only 2 institutions that are in the business to study and produce cannabis products. Now, also, there's the University of California at Davis, commonly known as UC Davis, also Murray State University in Kentucky's Hudson School of Agriculture. They are also in the game. I'm Carol Angela Davis. I am Carol Angela Davis with your cannabis news. Now, from Canada, as you may know, recreational marijuana has been legal across Canada. That's since 2018. And do you know who the fastest, get this, the fastest growing group of cannabis users in Canada is, folks? It is senior citizens. Yes, it is. That's the word from Canada's National Cannabis Survey, which showed that 27% of new cannabis users in the second and third quarter of 2019, folks, they were all 65 and older. Yes. And there's a lot of room for growth because only 70% of people over the age of 65 are cannabis users. Now compare that with 10% of those between the ages of 45 and 64. And at least 25% of adults ages 25 to 44 reporting cannabis use, whether it's medical or recreational. Medical use was the most common reason cited for cannabis use amongst seniors, with 52% of adults over 65 saying they use cannabis exclusively for medical reasons. The survey also demonstrated that those over the age of 65 are much less likely to obtain their cannabis illegally, which doesn't surprise anyone, right? Okay, they're going to go out in the street and get it from a drug dealer. Okay, folks, here we go. We're going to turn to some other news because we're going to come back home here at home, all right? So Hounds Labs is based in Oakland, California. It has developed a breathalyzer test for weed. The company says this new device can measure for both alcohol and marijuana at the same time, folks. So the company adds the test is 1 billion times more sensitive than other modern alcohol breathalyzers. Apparently, the device works by measuring the THC in your breath in the last few hours. So it's called a 2 to 3 hour window of peak impairment, and it can reportedly detect THC no matter how you got it in your body, whether you vaped it, you smoked it, or you got it in there through edibles, all right? So you just breathe into the mouthpiece, and of course, out comes the results. Now, Hounds Lab says the new test is going to balance safety with fairness by providing objective data to law enforcement, which is a great thing. Our problem is not providing objective data to law enforcement. Our problem is once law enforcement gets the objective data, they keep applying it subjectively, and the only people that really get locked up are people of color. That's not fair, law enforcement. We need you to stop that. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Get me on Instagram and Twitter.